animal with the yellow stripe on its back. Diker means diver in Afrikaans, and the animal gets its name because it does dive into the brush for food. Now the okapis over here do resemble zebras with their stripes, but they are actually relatives of the giraffes. They have a similar skull shape to the giraffes, and that's how you can tell. Now just around the corner is a watering hole, which is a great spot to see some rarer animals, such as the black rhino. Unfortunately, there are only about 5,000 black rhinos left in the whole entire world, so like I said, they're a bit of a rare spot. We'll want to keep our eyes open for them. But there are also two big black and white birds down here on the left, and those are saddle-billed storks. Those are some of the largest birds in Africa. They can grow up to 5 feet tall with a wingspan of about 8 to 9 feet. You see that those two are together. There are two of them. They often travel solo or in pairs, so you won't really see a big group of those saddle-billed stork ever traveling around. And there are a few different types of antelope that live in this area, and I think I see one of them just ahead here. It'll be a greater kudu. I'll point it out when we get a little bit closer, that it's a lighter brown antelope. The greater kudu is the second tallest antelope in Africa. It can weigh about 750 pounds, and the one I can see up here is actually a female, and you can tell because it does not have horns. There's also a bongo. We'll get to the kudu in just a sec, but up on the hill there are some bongos. Those orange-brown animals are on the left. Bongos are also known as the ghosts of the forest. Their horns stretch towards their backs, allowing them to quickly run through the brush to avoid predators. Now the greater kudus are just back there in the trees. There's another one just behind the watering hole over here on the left as well. They're both sitting back there. You'll see those are females, you can tell because they don't have horns. But all the bongos do have horns, it's not just the males. Now we're heading up to the Zafari River, which is home to many animals, such as the hippopotamus. Baby hippos can weigh up to 85 pounds at birth, with adult males weighing upwards of 5,000 pounds. If you don't see any hippos over here, don't worry. It looks like there is one in the back. But if you can't see it, you just sit tight and really just ahead as well. Hippos can hold their breath for up to 8 minutes while submerged underwater. Yet, although they are excellent swimmers, if their feet can reach the bottom of the river, they would much prefer to walk along it. Yeah, just like I suspected, there is a whole float or group of hippos up here. I'm going to pull up just ahead and we can pause for them. Hippos will travel up to 2 miles at night to look for food. Yeah, there's two of them in the water back there.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Now the gray and white birds back there on the logs with the hippos are pink-backed pelicans. Their pink coloring comes out during mating season. And they use those big beaks as nets. They scoop up fish, drain the water, and eat the fish almost immediately. They don't usually carry anything around in their beaks. Now it looks like we're approaching a pretty rickety bridge up here. Everyone do please remember to stay seated. Oh, especially since there are some Nile crocodiles underneath this bridge. Nile crocs are large and aggressive, capable of crushing 2,000 pounds per square inch in those powerful jaws.
No petting the crocodile.
Sorry? No, I would not recommend petting the crocodile. I'm next head over to a completely different environment, home to some completely different animals. And speaking of different, coming up just ahead here on our right is a baobab tree. It's also known as an upside-down tree, as it looks like its roots are spreading out the top. This tree stays leafless for about 9 months out of the year and stores water in that very large trunk. There are a few more of these throughout the reserve, so be on the lookout. There's also one back in the village if you'd like a nice up-close look. But you keep your cameras out here because we're pulling up to my favorite view on the whole reserve. The Serengeti grasslands. This area stretches for miles all the way to East Africa and acts as a superhighway for migrating animals. It's also home to some of everyone's favorites, including the elephants, cheetahs, and giraffes. And it is the wild Africa we're working so hard to preserve. The animals of this area act as sort of a construction crew for the landscape. Elephants are like bulldozers, knocking down trees, allowing the grass to spread for miles across the savanna. Giraffes are pruners, trimming up the trees, allowing sunlight to reach the grass. Antelope are kind of like mowers, eating up the grass, allowing new shoots to sprout on it. And then the warthogs clean up around the outside. In that totally balanced ecosystem, there's enough food for everyone. It's all about teamwork out here on the savanna. They're all working together to get exactly what they need for survival. Now over here on the left, there is a herd of sable antelopes. Those brown antelope out there.
No, no.
They are born a pretty light brown color and grow to be dark brown, almost black. Now you may recognize their long curved horns from the sign we passed on the way into the reserve today. That's because the sable antelope is the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve.
Ay, mira allá, mira, las cebras.
They reproduce seasonally, with each mother only producing about one baby at a time. There's another sable antelope here on our left. This one's pretty dark in color. They also practice crushing, which is when the adults of the herd will circle up around the younger ones if they feel there's a predatory threat in the area. That is for the protection of the young. Now the red-brown mounds popping up all throughout this area are called termite mounds. And the termites build these mounds out of mud and dirt. They are just about as hard as cement. They also make pretty great scratching posts for the elephants and the giraffes. So if any of them look a little bit more worn down than others, that would be why. But when they are all worn down, the antelope of the area like to hop up there and use them as lookout posts. They'll scout out for any predators that could be lurking around. Now coming up on our left-hand side, there is a reticulated giraffe up there in the trees. I'm going to stop for one of them aside just ahead here, but up on the left is a reticulated, and it's going in and out of the trees there. That giraffe is named for the Latin word reticulata, meaning net, because that's what its pattern does resemble, a net. It's much lighter in color than this Maasai giraffe we'll see just ahead here. Also up ahead here are some Ankole cattle and white-bearded wildebeest. The white-bearded wildebeest are the gray animals, and they have one of the largest migration patterns in all of Africa. Now the Ankole cattle are the big brown ones with the very large white horns. They're also known as Watusi cattle because the Watusi tribe was the first tribe to domesticate these animals. They're actually the only domesticated animals that live on the reserve. Now those large horns can grow up to 20 inches in circumference at the base and can grow up to 5 feet in length. But they're actually honeycombed on the inside, and that makes them pretty lightweight. It also helps them better regulate their body temperature. Coming up on the left, there is another Maasai giraffe up here. Giraffes average about 18 to 20 feet tall, and they can be born up to 6 feet tall. Believe it or not, they actually have the same number of vertebrae in just their necks as both the okapi we saw earlier and us humans. We all have 7 vertebrae in our necks. Theirs are just a little bit larger than ours. Just around the corner here, we'll pull up to Monkey Point. We'll look for some mandrills out here. Mandrills are the largest monkeys in Africa, with adult males weighing up to 100 pounds. They are also some of the most colorful monkeys in Africa. They've often got blue and red coloring in their fur, and it's mostly around their faces and backsides. Doesn't look like there are any hanging out over here though. That's okay, we'll head over to the red clay pits next and see if we can catch up with some elephants around there.